the evolution of demand sensing and shaping in the B2B world. My guest today is Sujit Singh. He is Chief Operating Officer with Arkieva. Hello, Sujit.
Hi, Bob. Good to be with you.
Thank you very much for being with me. So why is demand sensing and shaping so important today in specifically the B2B world?
Well, I think it's important in all industries, but specifically as we look at the B2B world, there are two elements to think about. One is the opportunistic side and one is the risk side. From the opportunity side, a lot of companies have invested a lot of money into extra capacity. And as we saw with the pandemic, sometimes there's a big mismatch between the capacity, the supply, and the demand. And that creates opportunities to, if one can go out and sense these mismatches, it creates an opportunity to shape your demand to then further balance the supply and the demand. And traditionally, this has been done in the B2C world, but the B2B world is now asking the question, if it can work for them, why couldn't it work for me? I have a lot of data. I have access to the same kind of analytics engines. So what levers I could utilize to shape my demand, to enhance my bottom line, top line, margin, all of those things.
Why has B2B been lagging in this effort compared to B2C?
I think with any initiative, there are always people who come up with an idea and then others who adapt to it. So I don't know if I would say they were lagging per se. It was a little bit more natural in the B2C world. I mean, I think with the idea of promotions and marketing events and price incentives, B2C has worked on that for a very long time. Mm-hmm. But it's difficult to imagine a buy one, get one rail car free in the chemical world.
Yeah,
right?
I can imagine.
So if you just think of it in those terms, the shaping of the demand was not readily visible. But now with the big data, the advent of big data, the advent of big analytics tools which can crunch the data, which can create these views of the data in a way that is meaningful to the B2B world, they can begin to exercise some of that and turn that into execution steps so that they can generate more demand. So it's not, I would not say that, I would simply say that it was maybe more apparent, more obvious in the B2C world, and it was less obvious, less so in the B2B world. But over time, it has just evolved that now the tools and the techniques are available that some people can take some advantage of it.
Do you think it might also have something to do with the fact that customer expectations were raised in the B2C world by Amazon and the like, and that now that is being translated into B2B as well?
Both, that's very, very, very true, both from the customer perspective, because ultimately the buyer is a person, is a consumer, and their view of the world is definitely enabled by the experiences at Amazon and other such e-commerce sites. But also the seller is a consumer, and they themselves have that experience, and they can evaluate that if they were in the other seat, it would be helpful to them. So it's a mutual, symbiotic in some ways, this whole idea that has grown in this way.
Yeah. The very phrase demand shaping is kind of interesting because it implies something that would be very difficult to do. I mean, demand, you could think of it as something that is outside your control.
Yes.
And that you're simply responding to what the customer wants. And yet here we're talking about shaping demand in a way. How does data and access to data help you to do that?
Well, in the B2B world, the data enables the or makes visible the opportunities to do the shaping, and the actual shaping is done by people who are in the field, people like CSRs, people like inside sales, who have to still place a phone call because still a lot of the B2B business is being conducted in that manner. It's not like I simply go on a website and just place my order for a toothpaste. I still get a call from a CSR, or as a procurement person, I place a call into a CSR. So it's a marriage of both those things. You have the data, it highlights the possibilities, the opportunities for the shaping, and then it takes an execution team to take that and then do a little push. The push activity can be a phone call. The push activity could be in form of questions. other customers are doing X or Y or Z, and we think you are in the same industry, you should have the similar or same opportunities. Why aren't you? And so there's a little bit of nudging, if you will, that is still needed.
Access to data, of course, is number one, but then you get the data, and the question is, what do you do with it, and how do you manage it, and how do you analyze it? Tell me a little bit about the progress of analytics in using that data to reach these goals you've talked about, and more specifically, predictive analytics.
Right. Well, I mean, if you look at the traditional future-oriented analysis of the data, with things like forecasting, in the traditional way of looking at it, because of data volumes involved, people would club the data into periods, into buckets, because that's the level of data that they could analyze. So one number for 1 month was what they could handle, so to speak. In the last, let's just say 15, 20 years, that barrier has been broken down. Now people are very easily able to deal with day-by-day data, hour-by-hour data. So now you're really talking about big data. And the system capability has moved to enable that in the last 10 to 15 years. And then, of course, there are new analytics techniques that have come about from companies like Amazon, as you mentioned earlier, Walmart. And so then it becomes a question of learning about those techniques. Conferences like Gartner help to bring that out into the open, and then applying them as best as you can in your industry.
So we moved, have we, from the use of analytics, descriptive analytics, which simply tell you what the state of something is, to predictive. Are we at that point where the data is valuable enough that you can actually predict demand based on your access and how you analyze it?
Yeah, and we have been at that point for a while now. It's
Have
just
we?
that new ways of using that, new ways of predicting, new things to predict keep coming out, because as people apply their brains to these problems, they come up with new things that would be helpful to their businesses.
I find it interesting, though, that you say that a human being still has to be involved, that once the data comes out, you need people to continue, to make this happen. You think that's going to be the case for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I certainly believe that there's a lot of human intelligence behind all the artificial intelligence hype out there. A lot of the very famous artificial intelligence models are simply compiling a lot of human intelligence and presenting it. You don't really see, I don't want to overstate the case, but it's the rare case where it's a real, true application of artificial intelligence that has nothing to do with humans. Humans still have to guide it. And of course, if you add to it a little bit of what is good versus what is bad, you definitely want humans to be involved, because it can certainly go astray if you don't control the artificial intelligence.
Right.
Yeah, so I would see that it will continue for a while.
Thanks so much, Sujit, for talking to us about demand sensing and shaping and predictive analytics in the B2B world. Really appreciate that. I do want to take a moment, though, to ask you specifically about Arkieva. Where do you guys play in this whole field? What are you doing?
Well, so we work with a lot of manufacturers. These are companies who sell to companies that make other things, and eventually they might, after 3 or 4 such steps in the supply chain, may reach the consumer. So they are definitely in the B2B world. And so what we are helping our customers with is taking their historical data, analyzing it at a very deep level, drawing statistical inferences out of it, out of the data, and then trying to tell them, hey, your customer should have ordered this product 7 days ago, 15 days ago, 30 days ago, as the case might be. And by the way, they usually ordered 1,000 units, but last time they only ordered 500. So they must have run out of this product by now. So even though we don't have the raw data from the customer, we use the order pattern to draw inferences to say when would the customer be out, and then enable this customer's, our customer supply chain team to then go back to that customer and nudge them to say, hey, you usually order it at this pattern. We are noticing through data analysis that you have not, and what has happened. And typically they use that to get an extra order in, and that has led our customers to get more money into the top line. We have also enabled things like affinity analysis, what we call a market basket analysis, to allow them to ask the question that that Amazon often does to us on their websites. If you go to order a book, they would suggest, hey, people who ordered this book also got these 3 other books. And so you can do that same type of analysis in the B2B world. So we are enabling our customers to ask that question, where they can say, hey, Mr. Customer, you're buying product X. We have observed through our data that people who buy X also buy Y and Z. Maybe it's of use to you, and have that conversation. So it has led to more contribution to the top line. It has led to closer relationships between our customer and their customers, and overall it has improved the business for them.
Thank you again, Sujit. I really appreciate your insights into the whole world of demand sensing and shaping in B2B, and telling me a little bit about Arkieva as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've been speaking with Sujit Singh of Arkieva. Thank you very much for watching.